Good afternoon, one and all. I welcome you all to Ganesh IAS Academy. In today's session, we'll be seeing environment-based current affairs from the date January 26th to 31st, 2024. Let us get into the news articles one by one. The first news that we are going to discuss for today is Golden Tiger in Kaziranga National Park. Okay, so why is this golden tiger in news? Let us understand. Recently, a wildlife photographer captured a rare golden tiger in Kaziranga National Park. Okay, so that is why it is in news. Here we need to get into the details of what golden tiger is, and we must also see details of Kaziranga National Park from exam point of view. Okay, so golden tiger, it is also known as golden tabby tigers. Okay, and these golden tigers are a color form or a color variant, okay, of the normal tiger that we have. Okay, and it is not a separate subspecies, which is to be understood very clearly. Okay, so it is not a separate subspecies, but it is a color form or a color variant of the tigers that we have in India, and they are an exceptionally they are exceptionally rare in wild, and they are rarer, even rarer in captivity. Okay, so these golden tigers are rare animal species. Okay, so that is what we need to know. What more details we must have to understand with respect to golden tiger? That this golden tigers spotted in Kaziranga National Park are a color variation of Bengal tigers. Okay, and this color variation is caused by the presence of a recessive gene called as wide band. Okay, so this may be a potential question in your UPSC prelims examination. Wide band that is recently seen in news is what? Okay, it is related to what? So wide band here is a gene which reduces melanin production during the cycle of hair growth in tigers. Okay, next, this change or color variation is caused by two important mutations. Okay, the first mutation that we are going to see is a Gauti mutation, which involves production of a protein that is usually expressed in the skin. Okay, and this agouti mutation is responsible for the blonde or golden skin of the tigers. And what is the second kind of mutation that we have to discuss? It is the mutation which causes orange stripes or the tabby patterns. Okay, so the orange stripes appear due to tabby mutation. So here the tabby gene is responsible for the most tabby patterns or the coat patterns in domestic cats. Okay, you might have observed that in most of the domestic cats that they have stripes. Okay, that is because of the tabby gene, and it is the same gene which is causing the stripes in tigers also. Here we need to note one thing, that a few years back the tiger named, the golden tiger named Kazi 106F was the India's only golden tiger, which was emerged as it emerged as a social media sensation in 2021. Okay, so this must also be noted. Now, whenever we study about a particular species, we also discuss about the locational features from where the species was discovered or found, or some important events happened with respect to that species. Okay, so here we need to discuss about the Kaziranga National Park. So it is located in Assam, and it was established in the year 1904, and it gained the national park status in 1974, and it was designated as a tiger reserve in the year 2007. And it is also recognized as UNESCO World Heritage Site in the year 1985, and this Kaziranga is situated along the Brahmaputra river. Each point here, each fact that we are mentioning here might be a potential question. Okay, in multiple statement questions this may be asked as one of the statements. Okay, and this Kaziranga National Park is also designated as important bird area by BirdLife International, and this park hosts variety of migratory and resident bird species. Moreover, this Kaziranga National Park is renowned for its big four species. So what are all the big four species that is found in Kaziranga? One is rhinoceros, another is elephant, another is Royal Bengal tiger and Asiatic water buffalo. These are the four big species which are extensively found in Kaziranga National Park. Okay, so this is what we need to know about this particular topic, that is golden tiger, which is found in Kaziranga National Park. The topic that we are going to discuss now is Amrit Dharohar Capacity Building Scheme. So what is this Amrit Dharohar Capacity Building Scheme? Let us understand this in detail. The central government is spearheading a significant transformation in the realm of wetland tourism with this scheme, that is Amrit Dharohar Capacity Building Scheme. So what is the aim here? It is to revolutionize tourism practices at ecologically sensitive wetlands, and particularly they are focusing on Ramsar sites like Odisha's Chilka Lake Ramsar site and then Haryana's Sultanpur Bird Sanctuary Ramsar site. Okay, so these Ramsar sites are given importance here, and it is for revolutionizing tourism practices in the wetland areas. Okay, so that is the aim behind this scheme, and it was launched in the year 2023 June. Okay, what more do we have to understand from this topic? That this scheme is a collaborative effort of Ministry of Tourism and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and this scheme will be implemented over the next 3 years starting from 2023. So up till 2026 it will go. Okay, and then it will encourage optimal use of wetlands, enhance biodiversity, carbon stock, ecotourism opportunities, and also income generation for local communities. So when there is tourism development, obviously there is better income generation for the local communities who are living in that locality. Okay, and then the primary focus of this scheme is to strategically transition from high volume tourism to high value nature tourism at ecologically sensitive wetlands. So the focus here is the transition. Strategically we have to transition from high volume tourism to high value nature tourism. So this may be a potential question. Okay, what is the aim of Amrit Dharohar scheme? That is, we have to strategically transition from high volume tourism to high value nature tourism. Okay, in wetland areas, eco sensitive wetlands. Now how is this scheme going to be implemented? So this scheme is being implemented in convergence with various central government ministries and agencies, along with state wetland authorities, and a network of formal and informal institutions, and even individuals are involved here. Okay, and they all work together for a common cause. What is the common cause? To revolutionize tourism in wetland areas. Okay, next is pilot projects and training programs under this scheme. What are all the pilot projects here? Out of the 16 identified Ramsar sites, 5 have been selected for pilot projects under the scheme. And what are the 5 pilot project areas or Ramsar sites here? It is Sultanpur National Park in Haryana, Bhitarkanika Mangroves in Odisha, Chilka Lake in Odisha again, and Sirpur in Madhya Pradesh, and Yashwant Sagar wetland or Ramsar site from Madhya Pradesh. Okay, and training programs for participants are also carried out under 2 programs. What are they? One is this Alternative Livelihood Program, ALP, which is a 30 hours per 15 days training program, and then the second one is Paryatan Navik certificate. What is this Paryatan Navik certificate? It is a certificate which is given to boatmen. Okay, so boatman certification for tourism. So these are all the 2 programs under which skill development is imparted. Skill is imparted to the people who are participating here. Okay, so this is what we need to know about this scheme, that is Amrit Dharohar scheme. The topic that we are going to discuss now is wandering albatross. Why is wandering albatross in news? Let us understand that. Wandering albatross is in the spotlight because of a recent study which highlighted its vulnerability. Okay, so a recent study highlighted the vulnerability of these wandering albatross. That is why we are studying it. Now we need to get into the details of what this species is and where is it found and other things. Okay, so wandering albatross is the largest flying bird with a wingspan of 3.5 meters. Okay, so it is the largest flying bird and it has a wingspan of 3.5 meters and it spends most of its lifespan at sea. Okay, generally a wandering albatross will live for 60 years and maximum of this time of this 60 years will be spent at open sea rather than at land. Okay, so they come to land only for reproduction purposes, for breeding purposes. Okay, so the rest of the time they stay at open sea. Okay, and then primarily they are found in southern ocean and the surrounding islands. The two important islands here are Marian Island and Prince Edward Island, which support half of the world's breeding population of wandering albatross, and it breeds approximately every 2 years on land after reaching sexual maturity, which we saw. Okay, so only for breeding purposes they come to land. What else do we have to understand? See, this is wandering albatross. It is the largest flying bird. It is shown in comparison to a man. Next, it is vulnerable as per IUCN Red List. This is also important. Okay, IUCN status of wandering albatross is vulnerable and it also faces threats due to bycatch. Okay, it becomes a bycatch from long line fishing trawlers, and pollution and climate change is also causing threat to the lives of wandering albatross. So here we saw bycatch. What is bycatch? Bycatch in fishing industry is a fish or other marine or coastal species that is caught unintentionally while fishing for specific species. So they will be going in search of some other species, but then there are other fishes and marine and coastal species which are caught unintentionally. Such animals are called as bycatch, and this is the biggest threat for wandering albatross here. And then these albatrosses prefer low coastal sites for warmth and suitable habitats. But are they being provided with this? No. That is because of climate change. Okay, so climate change may disrupt these preferences by altering temperature, rainfall, and wind pattern. Okay, here wind pattern is one main thing which we need to study in detail. That is because this wind speed is an understudied factor. Okay, we are not considering wind speed as one of the factors which is causing disturbance to birds like these. Okay, so wind speed, an understudied factor, is critical for nest site selection, and alteration in speed could impact nest construction and chick rearing. So when there is alteration in wind speed, it will cause disturbance or it will impact nest construction, and even chick rearing will be affected here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand from this particular topic, that is wandering albatross. The topic that we are going to discuss now is Humboldt's Enigma. So who is this Humboldt and what is Humboldt's Enigma? Enigma here means mystery. So what is Humboldt's mystery? Let us understand. So the question of where biodiversity is concentrated has intrigued explorers and even naturalists for centuries. Okay, so where is biodiversity concentrated on the globe? Okay, in which part of the globe the biodiversity is concentrated? Generally, we have this understanding that when we move from tropic to polar region, then the biodiversity decreases. Okay, so when we increase the sign of latitude, then the biodiversity decreases. This is what is the general consideration. But then this person, that is Humboldt, he is putting forth a proposal or a theory which is like a mystery. Okay, let us understand what it is. So Alexander von Humboldt has tried to answer this question. What was the question? That where the biodiversity is concentrated. Okay. So who is he? He is a polymath of the 18th century who recorded diverse natural observations proposing relationship between temperature, altitude, humidity, and even species distribution, that is biodiversity. Okay, so he studied all this in detail. And where did he conduct all of his studies? During his exploration of South America, Humboldt studied plant distribution on mountains, okay, noting variations with elevation. So his maximum focus was there on mountain diversity, okay, and he used Chimborazo mountain in Ecuador as an example to illustrate the concept of mountain diversity. So this enigma or the mystery that he is proposing is with respect to mountain diversity. Let us now understand what the mystery here is. Humboldt's enigma. Tropical areas generally receive more solar energy, thus fostering greater primary productivity and biodiversity. This is a well-known fact. Okay, tropical areas of the world receive more solar energy, thus foster greater primary productivity and biodiversity. But an exception to this is mountains. Mountains, despite being outside the tropical areas, have been an exception to this rule, thus posing Humboldt's enigma. That is why it is mystery. Mountains are being a mystery. Though they are staying away or though they are lying away from the tropical areas, they are hub of biodiversity. Okay, biodiversity is concentrated on mountains even in temperate zones. Okay, so that is what we need to understand here. So what are all the drivers of mountain biodiversity or mountain diversity? That is, the main drivers are history of the earth, geology and its geography and climate. These are all the main drivers of diversity in mountains. So different biodiversity at different location is the result of the changes of how these factors have intermingled over time and space. So over a period of time, how have these factors, that is history of earth, geology, geography and climate, have intermingled over time and space. Okay, based on this only the biodiversity of a particular location is decided. Okay, what else do we have to understand about the mountains? Okay, there are two important processes that generate biodiversity in mountains. The first process here is called cradles process and the second one is the museums process. How are mountains acting as a cradle and how are mountains acting as a museum? Okay, so the geological processes like uplifts result in new habitats. So when there is a geological process happening, there may be uplift of earth crust. Okay, and because of this uplift, new habitats are created where new species arises. So these habitats serve as a cradle for those species. Okay, so that is the first process. The second process here is mountains serving as museums. So species on some climatologically stable mountains, there may be certain mountains which are climatologically stable, they are not much disturbed by the climate variations. So, okay, so these mountains persist there, I mean those species persist there for a long time. So these spots are museums that accumulate many such species over time. Okay, so that is why they are called as museums. And there may be some other mountains which will serve as both cradle and museum. Okay, so sometimes the same mountain can be both cradle for some species and museum for some other species depending upon the species ecologies. So which one is the best example for such mountains, that we need to know. So the best example here are the coastal tropical sky islands. In India, do we have a coastal tropical sky island? Yes. One best example here is the Shola Sky Islands in the Western Ghats of India. Okay, so the Shola Sky Island in Western Ghats is a coastal tropical sky islands. So what are sky islands? It is an isolated mountain range that rises up out of the surrounding desert. Here the desert is sea. Okay, so the conditions over there near the sea is different, but here on the top of the mountain is different. That is why they are called as islands here. Okay, they are separated as islands. Okay, so here old lineages have persisted on the mountain tops as climate and habitats fluctuated around them in the lower elevations. So when there is climate fluctuations in lower elevations, there is no much climate fluctuation at the top of the mountains. So there even the older or the old lineages have persisted. Thus they serve as museums there and also as cradles there. Okay, so this is the reason why mountains are so very diverse. Okay, so this is Humboldt's Enigma. This is a view of Shola Sky Island in Western Ghats. Now there is an illustration of Humboldt's Enigma in India. Okay, can we apply this Humboldt's mystery in India? Yes. How? Tropical areas south of the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, tropical areas in northern hemisphere is south of Tropic of Cancer, right? So tropical areas which are south of Tropic of Cancer are supposed to be the most diverse in India, in our country. But the eastern Himalayas are much more diverse than the tropical areas in India. This is where Humboldt's Enigma comes into play. Okay, so the eastern Himalaya boasts exceptional diversity, challenging the conventional tropical biodiversity paradigm. Okay, generally we know that in tropical areas biodiversity is maximum, but this is an exception. Eastern Himalayas is an exception because they are mountains there. Okay, so that is why we are calling it a mystery here. So climate dissimilarity and geological heterogeneity contribute to high biodiversity in these regions. Okay, they have dissimilar climate and then there is also geological heterogeneity in those regions. That is the reason why we have highest biodiversity seen in eastern Himalayas, and there is also different temperature and rainfall levels on the same mountain which support diverse biomes. Okay, same mountain is there, but then they are experiencing different temperature and different amount of rainfall that they receive. Okay, so some scientists have even suggested that this part of the mountain range, that is the eastern Himalayas, is the second most diverse area of perching birds in the world, and for river birds these eastern Himalayas may be the most diverse area to live in. Okay, so this is what we need to know about the Humboldt's Enigma, and if you see in the picture, this is where eastern Himalayas are located. Okay, this is the entire Himalayan range. This is western Himalaya, this is central Himalaya, and this part is the eastern Himalaya. Okay, so if we see, here is where the Tropic of Cancer runs. Okay, so any area which is below the south of Tropic of Cancer is tropical region, and their biodiversity is maximum in general. But here we are seeing biodiversity is maximum in this area also, the subtropical region. Okay, so this is why we are considering it to be a mystery here. Okay, so it is again shown. See here, Tropic of Cancer is here, and these eastern Himalayas are located in the northeastern states of India. Okay, where we find excellent biodiversity. The topic that we are going to discuss now is laughing gull. Why is laughing gull in news? Let us understand that. The laughing gull, a North American bird, was discovered in Chittari estuary in Kaziranga in Kerala, and making the first recorded instance of this species being discovered in India. That is why it is in news. Okay, so this may be asked as a question. So for the first time, this laughing gull is recorded in India, in Indian land. Okay, where in Kaziranga in Kerala. This is how the bird looks. And then with the help of what did we discover this? It is with the help of eBird application. So what is this eBird application? It is a dedicated application for collecting scientific bird information. Okay, and it played an important role in disseminating this finding that we recently found, that is laughing gull in Kerala. So here we need to understand more about what this laughing gull is and many other features of laughing gull. So the bird is known for its unique laughter-like calls which resembles human laughter. That is why it is called as laughing bird. And then IUCN status of this bird is least concern. Next is, where is it found? the range where these laughing birds are found or laughing gull is found is they are the most common in Atlantic and Gulf coast of North America, the Caribbean, Central America and Northern South America. This is where it is generally found. Okay. Next, these laughing gulls are monogamous and they form long-term pair bonds. Okay. This is also an important point to be noted. So, they form monogamous relationship. Okay, and they are smaller than typical seagulls that we see. Next, they also undergo this migration. Okay, it is an adaptation which is done by many species, so it also has this migratory adaptation. I mean, the laughing gull also has migratory adaptation. So during winter, these birds embark on migratory journey with occasional sightings along Africa's southern coast. Okay, so their habitat is here and they are also found at Africa's southern coast because of migration, and its presence in Asia had been recorded only in the countries like Malaysia and Philippines, and now it is also found in India. Okay, so this is what we need to know about laughing gull. The topic that we are going to discuss now is largest deep sea coral reef. So where have they found this largest deep sea coral reef recently? Let us understand. Scientists have mapped the largest known deep sea coral reef located off the Atlantic coast of the United States. So it is found off the Atlantic coast, and then the reef's existence has been acknowledged by scientists since 1960s. So since 1960s we know that such a reef existed, but then only recently has the advent of underwater mapping technology which enabled the creation of a clear 3D images depicting its extent or the dimension. Okay, so with the recent technology we have found the extent or the dimension of this large deep sea coral reef. Okay, what else do we have to understand here? The features of the newly found reef. First is the reef spans approximately 500 km in length, stretching from Florida to South Carolina, and then at certain points its width reaches up to 110 kilometer. Okay, so the length here is 500 kilometer and at certain point its width reaches up to 110 kilometers. Okay, and then discovered at the depths ranging from 200 to 100 meters, sorry, 1000 meters. So they are discovered at the depths of 200 to 1000 meters, thus it is called as deep sea coral reef. Okay, that's why it's called as deep sea. Moreover, the reef exists in areas beyond the reach of sunlight. Okay, yet another reason why it is called as deep sea. Okay, so they are beyond the reach of sunlight. Here we need to note that unlike the recently found coral reef, which is the largest in deep waters, this coral reef, that is the well known, which one? The Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef system in the shallow water. Okay, so when it is asked that which one is the largest in the shallow water, the answer here is Great Barrier Reef. But which one is the largest in the deep waters? Then this Atlantic coast coral reef. Okay, the deep sea coral reef of Atlantic coast. Next is what coral reefs are. We are talking a lot about coral reef, but what is the significance of coral reef and where is it found? These details we must have to know. So coral reefs are underwater structures that are formed that are formed of coral polyps, and they are held together with the help of calcium carbonate. Okay, and then they are also regarded as the tropical rainforest of the sea. Okay, statements like this are important. You can use this in your answer writing. Okay, so when there is a question asked about coral reefs, then you can use such statements in your answer writing as an introduction also. Okay, so they are regarded as the tropical rainforest of the sea, and then they occupy just 0.1% of the ocean's surface, but they are home to 25% of the marine species. Okay, that is why they are called as tropical rainforest. because similar feature is exhibited by tropical rainforest also in the land. Okay, so in the land ecosystem or the terrestrial ecosystem, tropical rainforests are occupying a lesser area, but then they are habitat for maximum species on the earth. Okay, similarly, these coral reefs occupy just 0.1 percentage of the ocean surface, but they serve as a home or habitat for 25 percentage of the marine species that is there. Okay, so this is how a coral reef looks. So here we need to understand the difference between deep water coral and the shallow water coral reef. Okay, we saw that the Great Barrier Reef is the largest shallow water coral, whereas the recently found one is the deep water coral reef. Okay, so in its appearance, how are they different? Here the shallow water coral reef is brown and green in color, whereas the deep water coral is white in color. When it comes to diversity, the diversity here is high and here it is low, because more deeper it is, it will not support much life forms. Okay, in aquatic system we might have observed that the biodiversity decreases with increase in depth. So when depth increases, the biodiversity decreases. So only in shallow waters the biodiversity is high. Next is food. They rely on photosynthetic algae as their food, and then these deep water coral feed on small plankton or available organic material. To whom or to which species do they serve as habitats? Here the shallow water serve as an habitat for species like sponges, crabs and small fishes, etc. And here they serve as a habitat for sharks, swordfish and octopus, bigger animals. Okay. Next, the type of structure. Here it is rock-like. Shallow water coral are rock-like, but here they are grooves in the form of feathers and trees. Okay, they are in such form. Next is growth process. These require sunlight because they are shallow. So they require sunlight for survival, but they do not require sunlight because sunlight won't reach at that location, deep locations. Next is distribution. They have less coverage of the ocean floor, whereas these deep water have larger coverage of the ocean floor. Okay, and then what are all the challenges faced by the corals here? It is climate change, one important factor. Another is disturbance from oil and gas drilling. Okay, so the challenges are same for shallow water or deep water corals. Okay, so this is what we need to know about shallow water coral and deep water coral and the recently found deep water coral, the largest deep water coral off the coast of Atlantic Oceans. Okay, so this is what we need to know about this topic. With this, we have come to end of today's session. I hope you found the session to be very useful and informative. Let us see in the next session. Thank you all.